The fluorescent lights of Gangnam Station bled across the marble floor in cold, ugly stripes, and Amara Beauchamp stood in the middle of them like a woman on trial. Her uniform still smelled like fryer oil. Her name tag was crooked. In her left hand, she gripped a paper bag from the burger place 3 blocks over, the one where she'd worked a double shift, so a table of investment bankers could laugh at her accent when she asked if they wanted the meal upsized. One of those bankers stood in front of her now, Chaewon Park, yellow-tinted glasses, whiskey breath. The kind of smile a man wears when he thinks the world belongs to him because his father signed the deed. "You know what's funny, burger girl?" He flicked ash onto her sneaker. "I could buy the entire chain you work for. Fire everyone, just to make a point." Behind him, 3 men in gray suits laughed on cue. Amara didn't move, didn't blink. She'd been swallowing this exact flavor of humiliation for 2 years in Seoul, and her throat had gotten very good at it. Then the station went quiet. Not metaphorically, actually quiet. The buskers stopped playing. The commuters stopped walking. 2 women near the escalator lowered their phones, mid-selfie, mouths slightly open. A man was walking toward them across the concourse. Long black coat. No entourage. No rush. Just the specific stillness of a person the whole city knew to make room for. He walked past Chaewon like he wasn't there, stopped in front of Amara, and in a voice pitched only for her, he said, "You forgot your purse in the car, Nuna. Let me carry it." He took the paper bag from her hand like it was something precious. Chaewon's face drained of color so fast it looked chemical. But to understand how Amara Beauchamp ended up here, with the most feared man in Seoul carrying her fast food bag through Gangnam Station, we need to go back. This story is for every woman who has ever been made small in a room she was holding up with her own 2 hands. For anyone who has served people who didn't see her, smiled at people who insulted her, and swallowed the words, "I deserve better," until they scarred the inside of her throat. It's for anyone who's ever wondered whether kindness is a strength or just a slow way to disappear. Before we go any further, if stories about women who stop apologizing for existing hit something deep in you, tap that subscribe button and ring the bell. And drop a comment right now telling me the city you're watching from, because I want to know where these women are. All of you, everywhere. Because what happened to Amara Beauchamp between a burger counter in Sinsadong and the top floor of a tower she never asked to enter? It's not a fairy tale. It's a receipt. And by the end, you'll understand exactly what she paid and exactly what she took back. Amara Beauchamp came to Seoul with 2 suitcases, a teaching certificate from Xavier University of Louisiana, and the specific brand of hope that only 24-year-olds from New Orleans carry, hope that has already survived 1 hurricane and assumes it can survive anything. Her mother Denise had cried at the airport, not because Amara was leaving, because Amara was going alone. "Baby, promise me you won't shrink over there," Denise had said, her hands on Amara's cheeks. "I raised you tall," Amara promised. The teaching job evaporated within 4 months. The Hagwon that had sponsored her visa was run by a man named Director Yoon, who paid late, touched shoulders too long, and eventually stopped paying at all. When Amara complained, he laughed and told her to try suing him in a country where she didn't speak the language. When she quit, he blacklisted her. She had 2 choices, fly home broke or stay and figure it out. She stayed. The burger place in Sinsadong hired her because the owner, a soft-spoken woman named Mrs. Han, needed someone who could handle the English-speaking tourists and the drunk businessmen who came in after midnight. The pay was $9,861 an hour. The uniform was polyester. The hat gave her a headache. Amara worked double shifts 5 days a week and sent half of every paycheck home to Denise, who was raising Amara's 14-year-old brother Micah alone in a rent-controlled apartment in the 7th Ward that the landlord kept threatening to renovate them out of. Every Sunday, Amara called home. Every Sunday, Denise asked if she was eating. Every Sunday, Amara said yes and meant sometimes. There was a man, too, of course. There is always a man in these stories. His name was Terrence, and he was a Fulbright researcher she'd met at a language exchange in Itaewon during her first month in the country. Terrence was brilliant, funny, ambitious, and, as she would eventually understand, allergic to any version of Amara that couldn't be useful to him. When she had money, Terrence had plans. When she lost the teaching job, Terrence had feedback. He told her the burger uniform was temporarily embarrassing. He told her she was letting herself become the wrong kind of story. He told her he loved her. He told her a lot of things. The lie Amara believed, the one she rehearsed while scraping grease traps at 1 a.m., was this: if I just keep giving, someone will finally see me. If I just work harder, love harder, endure harder, the balance will tip. She believed it about Terrence, who was too busy to visit, but never too busy to text a request. She believed it about her mother, who never asked for money but cashed every transfer with a small, tired thank you. She believed it about Mrs. Han, who genuinely liked her, but whose son Chae-won treated the restaurant as a personal fiefdom whenever he wandered in with his banker friends. Chae-won, Mrs. Han's only son, 29 years old, educated in Boston, employed at his uncle's brokerage, spoiled to the bone. He came in twice a week, ordered off menu, snapped his fingers, and made a game of mispronouncing Amara's name in front of his friends. Amoeba, Armada. Hey, burger girl. Mrs. Han would apologize with her eyes, but never her mouth. He was her son. Amara took it. She took all of it. Because that's what the lie required. She was down to 300,000 won in her bank account and behind on rent, the night she first saw the man in the long black coat. She just didn't know it yet. He came in at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Amara noticed the time because she'd been staring at the clock, calculating whether she could stretch her remaining money to cover the electricity bill if she skipped groceries for a week. The answer was maybe. The bell over the door rang, and she looked up expecting another drunk salaryman. Instead, a man in his mid-30s walked in alone. Tall, not thin, built like someone who had done real work with his body once, and hadn't forgotten how. Long charcoal coat that had cost more than her rent, dark hair cut short at the sides, a scar just under his left jawline, thin as a paper cut, that you'd only notice if you were the kind of person who noticed scars. He ordered a plain cheeseburger and a bottle of water, paid in cash, sat in the corner booth. He didn't look at his phone. He didn't look at her either, not the way men usually did. He just ate slowly and watched the street through the window. She would have forgotten him entirely except for what happened at 3:14 a.m. The door slammed open. Two men she'd never seen before came in fast, one with a bloody nose, the other with his hand inside his jacket in a way that made her stomach drop. They scanned the restaurant, saw the man in the coat, and started toward him. Amara's hand hovered over the phone under the counter. The man in the coat didn't stand. He didn't raise his voice. He said one sentence in Korean, so quiet she couldn't catch it, and both men stopped walking. One of them actually took a step backward. The one with the bloody nose bowed, a deep, terrified bow, and then both of them turned around and left as fast as they'd come in. The man went back to his cheeseburger. Amara stood behind the counter with her hand still on the phone, heart hammering. When he came up to pay for a second bottle of water, he finally looked at her directly. His eyes were the color of very strong tea. He said in careful, quiet English, "I'm sorry you had to see that. It won't happen again in this restaurant." She said before she could stop herself, "Are you the reason it happened at all?" He tilted his head, almost smiled. "That's a smarter question than most people would ask." He left a 50,000 won tip under his water bottle. He came back the next night, and the night after, always alone, always the corner booth, always the plain cheeseburger. His name, she learned from the credit card he used on the fourth visit, because he wanted her to learn it, she would understand later, was Do-hyun Seo. She Googled him. Nothing came up. Not one photo, not one article. For a man who dressed like that and moved like that in a country where every executive had a LinkedIn, this was not normal. This was impossible. On the seventh night, Chae-won came in with his banker friends, loud, drunk. He saw Amara and grinned the grin that always preceded a bad hour. "Burger girl." He clapped his hands. "Do a little dance for us. Come on, show us some of that New Orleans rhythm." His friends laughed. From the corner booth, without looking up from his food, Do-hyun said one word in Korean. The laughter died so fast, Amara felt the air pressure change. Chae-won turned, saw who had spoken, and every drop of blood in his face went somewhere else. "Sunbae-nim," he whispered. I didn't know you were—" "Leave," Do-hyun said, in English, for Amara's benefit. "And don't come back to this restaurant." Chae-won left, his friends left. Nobody finished their food. Amara stared at Do-hyun. Do-hyun looked up at her, finally, and said very simply, "I've been coming here for a week to make sure I was right about who you were. I was right. We need to talk." He didn't ask her to sit down. He asked her to lock the front door. Mrs. Han had left at midnight. It was just the two of them and the buzz of the drink cooler and the sound of rain starting outside. Amara locked the door. She kept her phone in her hand, thumb over Denise's number. She was not stupid. Do-hyun noticed. He gestured for her to keep it. "Good," he said. "Don't ever put it down around a man you don't know yet." Then he told her 3 things. The first, Director Yoon, the Hagwon owner who had blacklisted her, had done the same thing to 9 other women in the last 6 years. 3 of them had left the country broken. 1 had died. Do-hyun's people had been investigating him for 11 months as part of something larger, and Amara's complaint, the one she'd filed with the labor board that had gone nowhere, was in a folder on his desk. The second, Chae-won Park's brokerage was laundering money for a mid-tier gang in Incheon, using shell companies that touched 3 of Do-hyun's legitimate businesses. Chae-won didn't know Do-hyun existed until tonight. He knew now. The third, Do-hyun's family name, the one he'd stopped using in public 7 years ago, was one of the oldest and most dangerous in Seoul. His grandfather had run the docks. His father had run half the city. Do-hyun had spent the last decade quietly restructuring what he'd inherited, moving it toward legitimate holdings, cutting off the parts he couldn't clean, and making very sure that men like Director Yoon and Chae-won Park understood exactly where the new lines were drawn. "I am not a good man," he said. His voice was even. "I have done things I will not describe to you, but I am trying to be a useful one, and the people who hurt you fall inside the territory I am responsible for." Amara's mouth was dry. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because," he said, "in 3 days a story is going to break about Director Yoon. When it does, every woman he hurt will be contacted by prosecutors. You will be one of them. I wanted you to hear it from me first, in a locked room, so you understood you had a choice about what happens next." "A choice?" "Yes." "About what?" He set both hands flat on the counter, not a threat, a settling. "About whether you want to be a witness who goes home to Louisiana next month with the money you earned back and a story you never tell, or whether you want to be the woman who stands up in a Seoul courtroom and puts him in a cell. Both are honorable. I will support either. But I need you to understand, if you choose the second one, Chae-won Park is not the last man who will try to break you, and you will need people around you who know how to keep you standing." Rain hit the window in sheets now. Amara heard herself ask, "Why me? Why does any of this matter to you?" For the first time, Do-hyun looked at her the way a man looks at another person, not a piece on a board. "Because 6 years ago," he said, "a woman I could not save died in a country that wasn't hers. And I made a promise about the next one I noticed in time." The lights hummed. Amara nodded once, slow. "I need to think. Take 3 days, same as the story." He unlocked the door himself on the way out. She didn't sleep for 2 nights. On the 3rd morning, she called her mother. Denise listened to the entire thing without interrupting. The Hagwon, the money, the burger place, Chae-won, the man in the coat, all of it. And when Amara was done, there was a long silence on the line. Then Denise said, "Baby, do you trust him?" "I don't know him." "That's not what I asked." Amara closed her eyes, thought about the way Do-hyun had told her to keep her phone in her hand, the way he'd unlocked the door himself so she wouldn't have to walk past him to do it, the way he had used the word useful instead of good about himself. "I think," Amara said slowly, "he's the first man in this country who's told me the truth about what he is before asking me for anything." Denise exhaled. "Then you already know what you're going to do. You just want your mama to say it's okay." "Mama." "It's okay, Amara. But you listen to me. You do not become his. You hear me? You use what he's offering to become yours. There's a difference. Your grandmother spent 40 years belonging to a man who saved her once. Don't you do that." Amara wrote it down. Don't become his. Become yours. She met Do-hyun that afternoon at a tea house in Bukchon that had no sign. He was already there, sitting near a window that looked out at a hanok roofline shining wet with rain. "I'll testify," she said before she sat down. "But I need terms." He gestured for her to continue. He didn't look surprised. He looked, if anything, pleased. "1. I don't take money from you. Not 1. I'll take a lawyer if you know a good one. But I pay her back when I can, on paper, with a written agreement." "Agreed. Her name is Ji-eun. She'll charge you a symbolic fee of 10,000 won an hour, and you'll pay it in cash so it's clean. 2. Whatever this is between us, whatever this becomes, it happens in daylight or it doesn't happen. I'm not going to be anyone's secret in this city." Something flickered in his face. Not offense, recognition. "Agreed. 3. You tell me the truth, all of it, even the parts that make me want to walk out. If I catch you lying to protect me, I'm gone." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "There will be things I cannot tell you because knowing them would make you a legal target. I will tell you when I am withholding, and why, and you can decide what to do with that. That is the most honest offer I can make." She considered it, nodded. 4. My brother, Micah. He's 14. If anything happens to me, if this goes sideways, you make sure he and my mother are safe. Not rich. Safe. Rent paid for a year, a good lawyer if they need one, a plane ticket to me if they want it. Nothing more. Nothing that puts them in your world. I will put it in writing tonight. You will hold the only copy. 5. Her voice caught just once and she made it stop. I'm not going to fall in love with a man who saves me. If something happens between us, it happens because I chose it on a Tuesday afternoon in normal clothes, not because you pulled me out of a fire. Do-hyun set down his teacup. He looked at her for a long time. "Miss Beauchamp," he said, "I would be insulted by anything less." He offered his hand across the table, not to shake, to agree. She took it. His hand was warm and rough at the knuckles, and she noticed, because she was the kind of person who noticed, that he waited for her to let go first. The story broke on a Thursday. Director Yoon was arrested at 6:40 a.m. in the parking garage of his own building. By 9 a.m., his name was on every major news portal in Korea, along with 3 of the 9 women's testimonies. By noon, Amara's phone had rung 11 times from a prosecutor's office in Seoul. She met with the prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Prosecutor Lim, the next morning with Ji-eun beside her. Ji-eun was 42, silver-streaked, and completely uninterested in charm. Amara loved her immediately. Amara told her story on the record, every unpaid week, every touched shoulder. Every threat, the blacklist, the fear, the way she'd been rehearsing the word fine until it stopped meaning anything. When she was done, Prosecutor Lim asked, "Will you testify publicly? Open court? Name attached? Face on the news?" Amara said, "Yes." Ji-eun, beside her, made a small, satisfied sound. The resistance came fast. 2 days later, Amara's landlord called and told her rent was being raised by 60%, or she needed to be out in 30 days. The next morning, Mrs. Han pulled her aside at the restaurant, near tears, and said her son Chae-won had told her that if Amara wasn't fired, he would make sure the health inspector found something that shut the restaurant down. Mrs. Han said, hands shaking, "I don't want to lose you, but I have to eat too." Amara took off her apron, folded it, set it on the counter. "You're not losing me, Aomeoni. she said, using the word for mother, because Mrs. Han had earned it. I'm giving you room to keep your restaurant, and when Chaewon is done being a problem, I'll come back and eat here as a customer. Mrs. Han cried. Amara didn't. Not there. She cried in the taxi. That night she called Do-hyun for the first time on her own initiative. He picked up on the second ring. He went after my job and my apartment, she said. Same day. I know, Do-hyun said. I was going to call you in the morning to ask what you wanted done. I did not want to do anything without you. She sat with that, a man in his position, asking permission. What are my options? Option 1. I have him arrested by Tuesday. The money laundering file is complete. He does 8 to 12 years. Option 2. He learns a lesson in a way that is not legal but leaves no marks. I do not recommend this. You would not sleep well. Neither would I. Option 3. He paused. You destroy him publicly, in a way he cannot recover from, using only true things and your own name. Slower, harder. But it belongs to you when it's done. Option 3. I thought so. She took a breath. Before we hang up, I want you to know I'm about to do something you didn't tell me to do. Tell me. I'm going to walk into his brokerage tomorrow at lunch, in my burger uniform, and hand him a copy of his own health inspection threat, printed with the date and time he sent it, in front of his entire office, and I'm going to smile. The silence on Do-hyun's end lasted so long she thought the call had dropped. Then, very quietly, he said, Nuna, may I come watch? You may not, she said. This one's mine. She hung up. If this story is hitting somewhere real for you, do me one favor before you keep watching. Hit that like button and share this with one woman in your life who's been swallowing her voice too long. She needs to hear this one. Now let's get back to it. She wore the uniform. Grease-stained polo, name tag crooked on purpose, hair pulled back in the same tired bun she'd worn through 2 years of double shifts. She rode the elevator to the 22nd floor of the Uido Tower, where Chaewon's brokerage kept its glass-walled trading floor. The receptionist tried to stop her. Amara smiled, held up a manila folder, and said in careful Korean, Please tell Mr. Park his burger delivery is here. He'll want to receive it personally. The receptionist, confused and a little charmed, called through. Chaewon came out with a smirk already on his face. He'd expected an easy laugh in front of his colleagues. He hadn't expected the folder. She opened it in the middle of the trading floor in front of 30 men in suits, and she read the text messages aloud in English and Korean. If she isn't fired by Friday, I know a health inspector who owes me a favor. Your mother won't have a restaurant to run by next month. She read the date, the time, the phone number. Then she said loudly, clearly, This is Chaewon Park threatening to destroy his own mother's restaurant to punish an employee for filing a labor complaint against a different man. I have 12 more messages just like this one. I've forwarded all of them to Prosecutor Lim at the Seoul District Office, who is currently investigating this firm for unrelated matters. I thought his colleagues should meet the version of him that shows up when he thinks no one is watching. She closed the folder. Chaewon's face did something between purple and gray. One of the senior partners, an older man with reading glasses pushed up on his forehead, stood up slowly from his desk. He looked at Chaewon. He looked at Amara. He looked back at Chaewon. Get your things, he said in Korean to Chaewon. Now. Amara walked out. She did not run. She did not smile until she was in the elevator, alone, and then she laughed so hard she had to lean against the wall. The news picked it up within 6 hours. Someone on the trading floor had recorded it. By nightfall, the video had 1.4 million views. By the next morning, Chaewon had been fired. The brokerage was under formal investigation, and Prosecutor Lim had added his messages to the Yoon case as a pattern of retaliation against witnesses. 2 weeks later, Director Yoon pleaded guilty on the eve of trial. 9 women were awarded restitution. Amara's share was 41 million won, every unpaid wage plus damages. She paid Ji-yoon her real fee in cash. She paid Mrs. Han's rent for 6 months as a gift, and refused to be argued with about it. She sent Denise enough to hold the 7th War Department for a year. She did not touch a single one of Do-hyun's money. She had not needed to. Terrence flew in on a Wednesday. He didn't tell her he was coming. He showed up at her new apartment, a small, sunlit studio in Mangwon that she had rented with her own money, with a bouquet of white lilies and the specific expression of a man who has watched a woman become interesting from a distance and decided to reclaim her. She let him in because she wanted to see what he would say. She had earned the right to be curious. He looked around the apartment, nodded, impressed in the condescending way of men who are always slightly surprised when a woman does something without them. He set the lilies on her counter. "I saw the video," he said. "Amara, my God, you were incredible. I always knew you had that in you." "Did you?" "Of course. Baby, come on. Look, I know things ended weird between us. I was going through a lot. The Fulbright was crushing me. But I've been thinking, and I want to be here for this next chapter with you. All of it." "Whatever it looks like." She looked at him, really looked, the way she hadn't been able to for 2 years, because 2 years ago she had needed him to be something he wasn't, and need makes you generous with lies. Terrence was handsome. Terrence was smart. Terrence had never once, in the entire time she had known him, asked her a question about herself and waited for the full answer. "Terrence," she said, "why are you actually here?" He blinked. "I just told you. No, the real reason. Because the Terrence I knew doesn't fly to Seoul on a Wednesday. He sends a text." He hesitated, and in that hesitation she saw all of it. "My postdoc fell through," he admitted. "I have 3 months left on my visa. I thought, with what you've built here, with the connections you must have now, maybe we could—" She started laughing, not cruelly, just the tired, clean laugh of a woman recognizing an old costume. "Terrence," she said, "you didn't come back because I finally became the woman I was going to be. You came back because I finally became useful." "That's not—" "Take the lilies, sell them, buy yourself a plane ticket." "Amara, I hope you find something real. I mean that, but it isn't going to be me. I'm not the girl who fried your dinner while you edited your dissertation anymore. That girl was a whole person you never bothered to meet. And I'm not going to introduce you to who I am now, because you didn't earn the introduction." She held the door open. He stood there for a long moment, and she watched him try 3 different faces, wounded, angry, charming, and land on none of them. He left. She closed the door, locked it, slid down against it, and sat on the floor of her own apartment, breathing. She did not cry. She had already cried for that version of herself, in a taxi, months ago. She got up and threw the lilies in the trash. 6 months later, Amara stood on a small stage in the community room of a women's shelter in Mapogu, in front of 42 women who had come to hear her speak. She wore a navy blue dress she had bought for herself. She wore no borrowed jewelry. Her hair was out, full, exactly the way Denise had taught her to wear it when she was 6 years old, and thought her curls were a problem to be solved. She was there because she had started something. It was called the Beauchamp Fund. She had almost named it something more Korean, something more humble, and then decided no, her mother's name was going on the door. And it did exactly one thing. It paid the first 3 months of legal fees for foreign women in Seoul who had been exploited by their employers and were afraid to file complaints. She had funded the first year with the remainder of her settlement money and the modest but real salary from her new job, a full-time role as a program coordinator at an international women's legal advocacy nonprofit, which she'd gotten on her own, through a formal application after a 3-round interview process, because Prosecutor Lim had written her a recommendation, and Ji-eun had personally called the director. Do-hyun had offered, once, to fund the entire operation quietly through one of his legitimate holdings. She had said no, not because she didn't trust him, because she wanted to be able to say, out loud, in this exact room, that no man had built this, not even a good one, not even a useful one. She looked out at the 42 women. Some of them were Filipino, some were Vietnamese, 2 were from Nigeria, 4 were Korean women who had married foreign men and been abandoned. 1 was a girl from Baton Rouge who could not have been older than 22, and who was crying quietly in the back row in a way Amara recognized like a language. Amara did not give a speech about resilience. She hated the word. She said, "I was a woman who served food to men who insulted me because I thought if I stayed quiet long enough, someone would notice I was worth more. Nobody noticed. I had to say it out loud. I had to say it in a courtroom and a trading floor and a locked restaurant at 3 in the morning. And the day I said it out loud is the day my life started belonging to me. So today, in this room, I want you to practice saying one true thing out loud. Just one. We'll go around." She started with herself. "My name is Amara Beauchamp," she said. "I am not for sale, I am not for rescue, and I am not going back." The room said it with her, one by one, in 6 different languages. She held every eye. Do-hyun was waiting for her outside the shelter in a plain black sedan he was driving himself. No driver, no coat. Just him, in a gray sweater, reading a book propped against the steering wheel. She got in the passenger seat. "How did it go?" he asked. "It went." He nodded, didn't push, started the car. They had been doing this for 4 months now, this slow, careful, entirely daylight thing between them. Dinners in restaurants where other people could see them. Long walks along the Han River where he asked her questions and waited for the full answer. One kiss on a Tuesday afternoon in normal clothes, exactly the way she had said it would have to happen, in the doorway of a bookstore in Hongdae while it was raining. She had chosen it. He had waited to be chosen. Tonight, driving back to Mangwon, she said, "I need to tell you something, and I need you to not fix it. Okay? I'm scared of what you used to be, not what you are now, what you used to be. And sometimes, when you're quiet, I don't know which one I'm sitting next to." He was silent for a full block. Then he pulled the car over, put it in park, and turned to face her. "Amara," he said. He almost never used her first name. "I am going to tell you 3 things I have done that I have not told you. Not because you asked, but because you deserve to know before you decide anything else about me. And after I tell you, if you want me to drive away and never come back, I will." He told her. They were bad. Not the worst things a man in his old position could have done, but bad. She listened. She did not flinch. She did not perform understanding either. When he was done, she said, "Thank you for telling me. I need a week." "Take a month." "A week." He nodded. He drove her home. He walked her to her door. He did not try to touch her. He said, "Whatever you decide, the arrangement about your mother and brother is permanent. That's not conditional on us." She said, "I know." She took the week. On the 7th day, she called him and said, "Come over, bring dinner, nothing fancy." He came. He brought soft tofu stew from a small place near her apartment. They ate at her tiny table. She reached across it and took his hand. "You are not my rescue," she said. "You are my equal. If I ever start acting like anything else, you're going to tell me. And if you ever start acting like anything else, I'm going to leave. Deal?" "Deal." He kissed the back of her hand, just once. Very briefly. It felt like an agreement between 2 whole people. A year and a half after a man in a long black coat walked into a burger place at 2:47 in the morning, Amara Beauchamp stood in a small chapel in New Orleans and watched her brother Micah graduate from the 8th grade. Denise cried. Micah rolled his eyes. Amara filmed the whole thing on a phone she'd paid for herself. She flew back to Seoul the next week, to her apartment, her job, her fund, which had by then paid legal fees for 31 women, her Ji-eun, who had become her closest friend, her Do-hyun, who was waiting at the airport with no flowers and a cup of the specific coffee she liked, because that was the kind of man he had grown into being. She had not gotten a fairy tale. She had gotten mornings that belonged to her, a name people said correctly, a mother who slept through the night, a brother with a future, a partner who had earned his place at her table by telling her the truth on a Wednesday when he could have kept lying, a room full of women who could now say one true thing out loud. The theme, in case you missed it, is this: nobody is coming to notice you into your worth. You have to say it. out loud, in a room where someone might make you pay for it, and then you keep saying it until the price stops mattering. If this story moved something in you, do 3 things for me. Comment below with the one true thing you're going to say out loud this week. Share this with the woman who needs it. And subscribe, because we tell these stories every week, and the next one might be about you. She didn't get a fairy tale ending. She got something better. She got herself back.